So this, of course, is the big story that we are tracking on World Business Watch. Oxfam's recent climate report has revealed a startling fact. Now, the planet's richest 1% of the population that constitutes a total headcount of 77 million wealthy individuals. They reportedly have a carbon footprint that matches the footprint of the 66% of the poorest population, which totals up to a staggering 5 billion people. Our next report gets you more details.
In a stark revelation, a recent report from Oxfam underscores the disproportionate impact of the world's wealthiest on global carbon emissions. Critical to this alarming revelation is the definition of the top 1%, characterized by an annual income threshold of $140,000 annually and an average income of $310,000. The disparity in personal consumption is exacerbated by factors such as location, renewable energy use, and transportation modes. Particularly, the extravagant practices of the super rich, including private jets and yachts, significantly elevate their carbon footprint. Equally concerning is the revelation that 70% of emissions by the top 1% stem from investments in companies making substantial contributions to polluting industries, especially petroleum and coal. Oxfam's findings underscore that billionaire investments in these environmentally harmful sectors are twice as much as those of the average investor. As the world grapples with the urgent need for climate action, this report places a glaring spotlight on the responsibility of the super wealthy. The environmental impact of their consumption and investments raises crucial questions about their role in exacerbating the climate crisis, demanding a thorough examination of the practices of billionaires globally. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
All right, so those are some pretty startling statistics there. And to try and decode that, we're being joined by Mr. Jayant Krishna, who is the CEO of the Foundation for Advancing Science and Technology. He's joining us live on this broadcast from New Delhi. Mr. Jayant Krishna, thank you very much indeed for joining us here in WION. Now, this, of course, is the question, that a lot of people would perhaps ask. 70% of all emissions are contributed by just 1% of the population that is tied to the investments in petroleum and coal. Is there any way that we can actually incentivize these billionaires to shift to clean, sustainable technologies?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the current regime of, having the provision for carbon offsets, that hasn't done any good to the world. Actually, it is just kicking the can down the road. And, it lets the big business off the hook. So I think we must commit to greener use of renewable energy. That's a very, very essential requirement. I mean, let's understand it's a climate emergency that we are talking about. The fossil fuel subsidies by various governments all over the world have to be reduced to zero. The process has started somewhere it is yet to kick off. But I think by the end of this decade, all fossil fuel subsidies by government have to come to an absolute zero. There is no other way. And, after all, whose money is being given as subsidies? It is our and taxpayers' money, So by end of decade, that has to be completely phased out. Green energy projects, have to be made more lucrative, more appealing. That's very important. Big time incentives are required. Green energy projects sometimes tend to be less lucrative. So I think they must be backed by government guarantees and covering green electricity, hydrogen, green ammonia. And some of the countries, perhaps where some of the areas like Africa, Latin America could take a lead there. Right. I think it's very, very important that, and one more area, the green free trade is very, very important. So all, tariff barriers which are there, which impede the adoption of green technologies need to be removed so that green free trade is encouraged, covering green technologies, non-conventional fuels, as well as green commodities. So I think these are a variety of measures.
Absolutely.
It's a now or never kind of a situation which the world must realize. Otherwise, generations to come would not forgive us for our tardiness.
I think you've highlighted, the things that the governments can actually do by changing policies. But it's true that the wealthier an individual is, the bigger their carbon footprint. And it all comes down to individual choices. We see these celebrities who travel in private jets who then tell people do not use a straw because it is made out of plastic. You know, these extravagant practices such as private jets and yachts, they contribute significantly to the carbon footprint. Is there something that can be done to tell people on an individual level that they can actually reduce their carbon footprint?
Well, how do I react to this question? I mean, the fact is every future inhabitant of this world, of this planet, has a right to be protected from climate change. That's very, very important. And all these irresponsible lifestyles that the rich of the world lead, in terms of private jets, or in terms of, all other things that you talked about, I think they must be made to realize that, who lives if the world dies? I think they have to put an end to these irresponsible lifestyles that add to our carbon footprint and make this planet, far from a good place to live in. I think it's very, very important. You could always have rules and laws there, but I think a self-realization and a self-code of conduct is very, very important to move away, to shun everything that adds to the carbon footprint. Their lifestyles have to be far more responsible than what we have seen in the last few decades.
Absolutely indeed, Mr. Krishna. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us that perspective there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.